So part of what the Cali program is a student organizing project here in LA where we basically organize students, one, to advocate and defend charter schools, and two, also to reach out to the charter high schools and give them college readiness like prep. So for example, in the fall, we'll have a college readiness family assembly where we bring the whole family, right? Because we believe that, when a student goes to college, especially in our communities, it's not just the student who's going, it's the whole family. So we try to involve the whole family in the process and help them like with their college application, financial aid. And then in the spring, once they start getting accepted to colleges, we do college visit days. So we had one, for example, at Cal State LA, we had another at UCLA, where we invite those students who are at the College Readiness Family Assembly, and we invite them to the campuses, and the Calis themselves, give the tour on campus. Um, so actually what very few people know is that charters are public schools, just like traditional um, public schools. They're both public schools. And so it's not that they're more expensive because the families aren't paying out of pocket. Essentially what happens is that in the state of California, there's what they call money that's given to every student to pay for their education, basically. So, for example, I think in California it might be 7,000. It might I'm don't quote me on this, but it's around 7 to 10,000 per student, right? And so, depending on where the student goes, whether it's a traditional public school or a charter public school, that money follows the student. And so, there's a misconception somehow that charter schools are charging for their services when they're not. They're public schools and they're funded by the state of California. Is that a traditional public school is run directly by the district, where a charter school has its own board of directors and it's authorized by the district. Um, so when I say authorized, I mean the district gives it permission to operate in its capacity, right? But they're both public schools, meaning the money comes from public education funds.
Why do you think there's so much, not necessarily hatred, but such a downforce on charter schools? Why is it that there's more emphasis on like regular public schools compared to just charter schools?
I think there's a number of reasons. I think one, it's just really hard to change institutions. People, we've been doing this the way we've been doing this for this long, and it's comfortable, it's convenient. I think another reason is because, it's sort of shaking up the system a bit. Um, and so, there's some people who argue that charter schools take money from the district, right? And because the district has less money to operate traditional public schools, but what we argue is that the money belongs to the student, not the district. And so the money should follow the student. Um, I think also because not most, a good portion of charter schools are also, for whatever reason, don't have unions, whereas the traditional public schools are all union. And so that comes off as a threat, right? But I think that could be easily solved if that's really concerned by, those people that feel like they should be union, then they should organize them, right? Otherwise, I think that charter schools are doing a much better job of closing the achievement gap and achieving educational equity, especially in communities of color. Like if we talk about that we care about educational equity, we care about closing the achievement gap, and we are really, we really mean that, then charter schools are the ones that are doing that. Traditional public schools aren't. If anything, they're failing in those communities. And so, um, for me, in terms of as a person of color with children in public school, that to me is what's most important. It's who's really getting it done. And I see charter schools as, you know, the vehicle to educational equity.
All right, there was something that I wanted to add in there. Do you have any questions for them, or? No?
And the other ones I sent you.
Oh, sorry.
But most of them are answered.
Okay, because I had a really cool question going on, but I forgot. Speaking of which, I had forgotten to introduce for them. Yeah, but again, everything's gonna be,
Yeah.
So, you wanna just do that real quick 30-second intro? Something that I'd wanna put in there, like, it doesn't have to be 30 seconds. I'd wanna be able to be like, so my name is Christopher Falcon, and I'm here at CCSA with, and she say her name, and then I want to be able to say like, so tell me something about yourself and something that you think CCSA has done for our community. Do you think that's good?
Yeah.
Okay, so you let me know when.
Oh, it's recording. Don't worry about it. I'm recording everything.
Alright. Are we good? Are we good on time? Okay, yeah, we're good. I get my face together because now I actually have to like be presentable. Okay.
Oh, you guys asked questions about funding, right?
Yeah, we did. If it's possible to get something.
Yeah, like does money allocated to charter schools come out of school district budgets? So yeah, and let me know if you're not able to.
Open it?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I should. Let me actually.
So we could use what she's sending you as like our a couple of our outside sources.
That's
So
fine.
we have that now.
Yeah, see, like I already got it. I got at least one.
And then I also took a picture of that logo.
Logo?
Yeah, so good. I'll put it in there.
Cool.
And then
96 cents. Okay, so intro.
So you want me to do an intro?
Yeah, not at the moment, but
maybe we could have something like about what CCSA is like. She could say, like explain like what.
yeah, that's part of the intro. I'm like what has CCA done and like how has her life been shaped by CCSA? Something like that. Is there any like specific question that you'd like to be asked?
Or like,
For the
is
intro?
there like anything specific you want to get out there? That
I think mainly it was the thing about educational equity, meaning, you know, it's just a really hard thing to talk about, because I think again, charter schools are seen as a threat to, basically, teachers unions, to be quite candid, because they are non-union, although a third of charter schools are union. But being someone who grew up in a union household, who learned how to organizing around workers' rights and workers' issues, it's something I definitely do care about. But what I see is, however, is that the leadership at is of some of these unions, or I don't want to say unions because it's not, I'm talking about this particular one, is I think their self-interest is aligned with the district's interest. And I really feel like the students and the teachers at the traditional public schools are really getting left behind. Like their interests are not being represented. And so to me, that's something that's important. And so I think that there's, you know, and to be, again, completely candid, there are folks on the charter side who definitely do not like unions, right? So you have these two opposing, like, polarizing, it's basically the leadership on each side, like, they can't stand each other, right? One is like, you guys are anti-union, and then this side is like, oh, but you guys are like, saying we're privatizing education or whatever. Or they're saying basically about the unions, like, you don't care about the student. I don't think either side is true. I think there's some middle ground to come around, but that I don't see that happening anytime soon. But at least in my work, that's where I try to do my work, is find that common middle ground, because at the end of the day, a lot of the teachers in the traditional public schools and charter schools wants what's best for the student. And I think a lot of teachers in these communities are teachers because they see the injustices in the education system and they want to make it right. And so, you know, I think that's where we need to start is like, what's the vehicle that's really closing the achievement gap, right? So if it is charter schools and, you know, then I understand why people have some problems with charter schools, but let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Kind of thing, like let's not just get rid of charter schools just because they're like, oh, they're not union. No, like if they're closing the achievement gap and they're getting our communities the, you know, educational equity we have a right to, then why are we gonna close them down? Like if anything, we should figure out how we can all work together.
That's true. Be collaborative.
Yes. Unfortunately though, I don't see us. Right now we're very polarized. But I think that, you know, like, but that's how you come to middle ground is you have this kind of like back and forth, disagreement and, battles. But I think eventually at the end of the day, you know, we'll see that the traditional system as it worked back basically 100 years ago, because the current system is basically based on what we did 100 years ago. You know, once we realize that no longer fits where our world and society is going to, I think then people will really make the switch over to charter schools. And public opinion is actually on the side of charter schools. So the public already understands, like, this is the way to go, right? There's just still some folks who, like I said, it's in their interest to keep things the way they are, and they don't want it to change, but that's not in the best interest of teachers or students. And ultimately, if we're gonna talk about public education, then it has to be centered around the teachers and the students.
Do you think CCSA is an advocate for change?
I do. I definitely think they're an advocate for change. I think that they understand that, again, the way the traditional public school system has worked in this country has no longer, it worked 100 years ago, it doesn't work now, right? Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but like the current model of education is like, you know how you sit at desks and you have bells and all that? The reason why they did that, because most people would graduate from high school and go work in a factory. And in the factory, you sat at your desk, you did your work, and then you had lunch when the bell went off, and then came back when so that's what the system was based on. But we don't have